When the first stretch of road opened, the world barely noticed it until drones revealed what lay beneath it. No imported asphalt, no endless delays, no billion-dollar contracts. Traore had approved a new construction method using locally sourced materials, engineered to withstand heat, floods, and time. What shocked observers wasn't just the road's durability, but how fast it was built. Weeks, not years. Engineers from abroad began asking questions. The method cut costs dramatically, reduced dependence on foreign suppliers, and trained local workers instead of outsourcing expertise. Villages once isolated by dust and mud were suddenly connected. Markets expanded, transport costs dropped, and movement felt possible again. What looked like infrastructure was quietly becoming independence. As footage spread, reactions shifted from curiosity to concern. If Burkina Faso could build faster, cheaper, and smarter on its own terms, what did that mean for the old development model? Traore didn't celebrate. He kept building. And with every kilometer laid, it became clear the roads weren't just transforming the country, they were challenging the rules of who gets to develop, and how. The deeper transformation began not on the road itself, but in the systems that grew around it. As the new construction method proved its reliability, ministries that once operated in silos were forced to coordinate. Transportation planners worked alongside local governments, mining departments, and technical institutes. What emerged was not just a faster way to build roads, but a new rhythm of governance, one that valued speed without sacrificing durability, and innovation without dependence. At the heart of the method was a deliberate rejection of the assumption that progress must be imported. Engineers refined techniques using laterite soil, compressed aggregates, and binding processes adapted to Burkina Faso's climate rather than borrowed from temperate regions. These roads did not crack under extreme heat or wash away during seasonal rains. They were designed for reality, not for reports. International experts who initially dismissed the approach as experimental quietly returned to study its performance, surprised by how well it held up under stress. The economic ripple effects were immediate. Local suppliers who had never been part of national infrastructure projects were suddenly in demand. Small-scale quarries expanded. Equipment maintenance workshops opened near construction zones. Training programs emerged to certify young technicians who once saw no future beyond informal labor. Money that would have flowed outward through foreign contracts began circulating locally, multiplying its impact with each transaction. For rural communities, the change was tangible. Farmers could now transport produce to markets before it spoiled. School attendance increased as travel became safer and faster. Emergency services reached remote areas without delay. These were not abstract development indicators, they were daily improvements that reshaped how people planned their lives. Time, once lost to distant and poor infrastructure, became usable again. International development agencies took notice, but with mixed reactions. Some praised the innovation as a model of sustainable, context-driven infrastructure. Others raised concerns about standardization, certification, and compatibility with existing global frameworks. Traore's administration listened, but did not slow. The roads were already speaking for themselves. Performance replaced persuasion. What unsettled observers most was not the technology, but the implication. If Burkina Faso could bypass traditional financing models, reduce reliance on external contractors, and still deliver infrastructure at scale, then the long-standing narrative of dependency began to unravel. The new method didn't just lower costs, it lowered barriers to agency. Infrastructure was no longer a favor granted, it was a capability exercised. Inside government, this success created pressure. Citizens began asking why similar thinking couldn't apply to housing, irrigation, or energy. Officials who once leaned on feasibility studies and donor timelines found themselves accountable to visible results. The road program became a benchmark, raising expectations across sectors. Innovation, once framed as risky, was now demanded. Traoré understood the danger of momentum without discipline. Expansion was paired with documentation, testing, and iteration. Failures were studied, not hidden. Adjustments were made openly. This transparency built trust not only among citizens, but among engineers and planners who felt empowered to improve rather than merely comply. The method evolved as it spread, shaped by feedback from those who built and used the roads. The geopolitical dimension soon followed. Delegations from neighboring countries requested briefings. Regional blocs discussed joint training programs. What began as a domestic solution hinted at a regional shift to one where infrastructure knowledge moved horizontally between countries rather than vertically from donors. Burkina Faso, long seen as a recipient, was becoming a reference point. Media coverage changed tone. Early skepticism gave way to analysis. Articles focused less on Traoré's rhetoric and more on technical diagrams, cost comparisons, and longevity projections. The story was no longer about defiance, but about competence. And competence, unlike ideology, is difficult to dismiss. Perhaps the most profound change was psychological. Young engineers and students saw a future in solving local problems with local intelligence. The idea that innovation required leaving the country lost some of its grip. Pride, not as slogan but as confidence, took root. When people believe they can build, they begin to imagine more boldly. By the time the fourth phase of roads was underway, the shock had matured into recognition. Not everyone approved, and not every challenge was solved. But something irreversible had happened. The country had demonstrated that transformation does not always arrive with fanfare or foreign blueprints. Sometimes, it comes quietly, under the wheels of trucks rolling smoothly over ground once impassably carrying not just goods, but a redefinition of what is possible.